Okay, good morning everyone. Hope everyone's well. Keep the fashion file pays coming, even just for our amusement. Just to recap on the ambition of the project that we've been talking about over these shows and shares, in particular, drawing everybody's attention to the bit at the bottom in orange, where we are looking to create a service which is easily understood, fair, accessible and beneficial to our residents. This is the tube map of our vision. We've got 3 lines helping customers along their journey to a settled home in different ways. The first one, the orange one, is geared towards people helping themselves more. It's the self-service line, where we create tools that help customers go along that journey with only a small intervention from ourselves. We then have the light blue line in the middle, where we're looking for help customers by creating a shared plan and then doing some check-in and following up and nudging. So this might be using tools like the SMS tool. And then at the bottom, we have the dark blue line, which is geared to providing holistic wraparound support to those with multiple and complex needs. So this will involve creating a multidisciplinary plan and will involve collaboration from people in different services around the council and from third parties as well. So this graph just illustrates how needs and homelessness against the different lines. So those are the people on the self-service line in orange typically will be further from homelessness, and we will be able to identify more of their strengths and assets. And then moving down the graph, those in the middle that we're helping with coaching and support, well, they will have some strengths and assets, but they will still need a bit more support from ourselves. And then in the bottom left-hand corner in blue, we have those that we know and can identify on a daily basis, people that have more vulnerabilities than they do strengths. And again, that leads to us wanting to provide holistic support for those people.
Okay, so I'm going to just recap and talk about what we talked about last time at the show and share a couple of weeks ago. So I think Matt did a demo of the evidence store and all of its kind of new functions, such as the notification when documents came in. We heard more about the shared plan and particularly testaments from people who had used it as a pre-assessment plan. So Tara talked a bit about that and how useful it had been to her. And we had the kind of world premiere of the star-studded self-service video, which we'll be using. And also, sadly, we said goodbye, but hopefully more au revoir to Future Gov and MaidTech, excluding Emily, who we'll be hearing from later. But the show and share must go on. So, what have we been up to over the last 2 weeks? Well, as you can see, we've been up to quite a lot, but not all of it work-related, as most of us have been on holiday. I have been surfing. Emily's picked a massively flattering picture of me surfing there, I would say. That's some understatement. Claire's had a birthday. I'm not sure if there might have been something stronger on the table rather than cake at some points. And Emily's been out in the wilds of Scotland camping. But we did have time to do a presentation to the Mayor yesterday and Councillor Ennison, Rob Miller, and quite a few others. So they've now got a really good awareness of what we've all been up to together. We got some really positive feedback and some great questions from them. They were, I think, impressed with the tools that we had developed and the processes. But I think the thing that particularly struck them was how engaged you've all been in the process. So thanks very much for that. And I think next we're going to be presenting the work to members. And now I'll hand over to Claire, who's going to be talking about what we're showing you today. Claire, I think you're on mute.
I can't believe after all this time I did that. Apologies. So we'll be looking at snapshot and shared plan. We'll be highlighting what our priorities are going forward. And we'll have an activity based around the up-and-coming Tips and Tools guide. So firstly, just a bit of a recap of all the things. So, as the majority will be aware, single view, everybody's favourite from Dragon's Den, Now up and running and fully live. Everybody in the service should have access to this, and there are also people from other services such as housing using it. The waiting time tool, live on our website. Customers can get an accurate information about what their waiting time for social housing is likely to be. The SMS tool is allowing people to send text messages to customers, prominently being used to remind about appointments and interviews. Snapshot. We've started to collect information on the snapshot tool about people's assets and vulnerabilities so that all staff clearly going forward can see this information about a customer in single view. Document upload. This was a new, simple and fast way for customers to upload documents by us sending them a link, initially by email, but now that link can be sent via single view and the document uploaded straight to there. And shared plan. This is being used in multiple ways. Firstly, as a pre-assessment plan that's been given to customers so that they can carry out actions before the interview. This is aimed at sending clearer messages to the customer about their housing options from the start and allowing them to get some of the information before the interview so that it takes a little bit of the pressure off during that highly time-constrained interview where we all know there's a lot of information to give out. And then we're looking at the shared, building on that as a shared plan as a replacement for the overall personal housing plan, allowing officers to give a bit more of a personalised plan rather than so many general actions that go in the ones that we have at the moment. And then the third way it's being used across, and this is linked with, you'll see at the bottom, the colours are linked with the lines that we're using on the vision. So this one links in with providing holistic support. So on multiple and complex cases, there's been a multidisciplinary shared plan created with various people around the council, all feeding into that, so that the aim of this is twofold, is to check that people are on the same page, but it should hopefully as well cut out all those endless emails that we know we get when there's a complex case that's going around a lot of officers and a lot of services. Everybody be able to link into this and see what we're contributing, what housing are contributing, what adult social care are contributing. So it should bring in everybody closer together around a more defined plan. So we talked about a couple of weeks ago the tools and teams plans, also known as TNT. They're going to explode onto a desk near you soon. These have all been developed for each team, given an outline of what we think about where people could use the tools, just to clarify for anybody that isn't sure or is still finding their way with the tools. We've got them at the moment, they're with ops managers, we're just reviewing them and they'll be coming out to everybody else shortly.
Nice one, thanks Claire. So this is super lightning update combining snapshot and shared plan. The main thing that's happened over the last 2 weeks is we've had our service assessments. So you'll remember we mentioned that this is like a service standard set by central government that assesses new digital products and tells us if they meet user needs, if we've built them in the right way, and if we're going about measuring success in the right way. But I think what's been really brilliant about going through that process with Hackney here is it's really about having a conversation about all these 14 areas at the right point in time. And so if you have a little look at some of the things that are written there, it's all really, really good things, and it's a really brilliant process to go through. So making sure that we're understanding users and their needs, so that's yourselves and residents, making sure that the service is simple to use and that it's accessible and that everyone can use it, that we're building in a way that makes the new source code open, and we're contributing to open standards and the service is reliable. So again, it's a really brilliant thing for us to hold ourselves accountable to. To give you a bit of an idea of what goes on behind the scenes of that, Hackett had set up Trello boards for each of these areas. You can see there's a column for each of these different things. And then we've had to go away and add evidence to each of those things and show how we're conducting user research, listening to feedback from yourselves at show and shares, like meeting accessibility guidelines and doing testing around that. So we've added lots and lots of evidence here, and then we had a 2-hour meeting with IT where we went through this and they asked us some questions and then added comments and recommendations. So we're looking forward to finding out the results this week. We'll learn if we've not met those things or there's partially met and we need to add a bit more evidence, or if we've met them. So watch this space. The assessment and feedback will be published in the open on the Hackett website, and we've also added links there to the Trello board, so if you're interested to see all the evidence that we've compiled for those, you can see it there. But really just wanted to say a big thank you to IT for such a kind of rigorous but also considerate process. It was really, really useful for us as a team to go through this for Snapshot and Shared Plan, making sure that we're building the right thing in the right way. So now we'll talk a little bit about priorities going forward. So in terms of what we're going to be talking about at the Show and Shares, it's mostly going to center around 3 areas. So we've got 2 different experiments going on around Shared Plan. One about the pre-assessment plan, so continuing that work, giving residents some actions to do before their homelessness interview to see if we can then build on that as their PHP. Using shared plans with some residents who are in the most complex situations and need that multidisciplinary and holistic support. And then we'll tell you a little bit more about 2 posts that Jen is advertising for to join the service. But something else we wanted to say was, like, this is your time, these fortnightly sessions, and we would absolutely love to open it up if other people have things that they're working on and projects and updates that they'd like to give. This really is your time to talk about the work that you're doing to improve the service. So please let Claire or Glyn know if there's things that you would like to talk about or other things you would like to hear about. And yeah, this session is absolutely yours to own going forward. We'll be updating on these, but very, very open to ideas about how you'd like it to run. So please do have a little think about that as well. So what's next for the pre-assessment plan? You remember that last time we were sending out shared plans before a homeless assessment. Scotty and I were doing a lot of the behind the scenes work to create these plans, but we wanted to see what would happen if officers from the customer services team tried this going forward, and is actually spending 10 to 15 minutes compiling some actions into a shared plan up front worth it? And what does that kind of front of house process look like? So I'll be catching up with Kaz, Michelle and Cam over the next couple of weeks to have a think about how we can move this forward and align it with the work that they're already doing around creating an information pack at triage. Then the other thing is around the multidisciplinary shared plan pilot. So again, this is an experiment to look at residents who are in the most complex situations, and we'd like to see if creating this multidisciplinary plan saves staff time in casework. So again, we believe that moving away from emails and also the speed of time responding to inquiries will improve if we have it all in one place. We want to see if this will improve the experience for staff. So again, working together to solve a problem rather than referring to a colleague in a different team or a different service, and really feeling like you're making progress towards shared outcomes. Again, we think that this might improve the experience for residents, having transparency about the work that you're doing as a team, clarity and a sense of ownership over that process. And ultimately, we would like to measure as well if this results in better outcomes for residents. So if we're resolving cases sooner and you feel more confident about that outcome. So this is the process that we're going to go through. We touched on this last time, but we're going to identify residents to take part, probably through Jennifer, so cases that have been escalated to her. So identify cases there and then kind of reach out to staff who are working with those people. And I know a number of you on the call have already been corralled by me into coming along to some sessions to create multidisciplinary plans for some residents. We'll then do an initial survey with the officers who are taking part, who are working on those cases. Nominate someone to be the lead officer on that case and ask them to create the kind of blank template plan and set up a multidisciplinary meeting. If it's appropriate, we'll invite the resident along to that initial meeting to agree a shared goal, and then go through an iterative process of adding actions to their shared plan, checking it together and sharing it with the resident or the advocate, again, if that's appropriate for this case, and cycle through that a few times before we do a survey at the end to see what the results are. So again, look out for any cases you're working on that might be appropriate for this, and invites to some sessions. But if Jen is happy to say a couple of things about the mental health social worker, it would be great to introduce that.
Hi guys, good to hear and see you all. So this week on Friday, there are currently 2 expressions of interest that are running in adult social care and also in East London Foundation Trust, who are, we call fondly ELFT, who are the mental health teams and foundation that deal with Hackney. So those expressions of interest close on Friday, and on Friday afternoon I'm shortlisting with the managers in those teams for 2 positions, one for a mental health social worker and one for a generalist social worker. Hopefully, and then we're doing interviews the following week, so hopefully that means I would like to think that maybe before the end of September, if I can push it, we'll have those 2 officers in post for a year. So they'll be with us for a year. They'll be working. We did a workshop, myself, Emily, and some of the managers from the mental health teams and also from adult social care, to try and look at the best teams and places in the service to site these social workers. So I think initially we identified 5 different areas that they could work in across the service that would really bring some benefits to us. So over the next year, we'll be working with those individuals, trialling and testing where they work and what they do and the benefits that brings. I'm hoping there'll be a lot of shared learning for all of us there. I'm hoping that there'll be a lot of reflective practice from those 2 practitioners, because what I want them to do is help us identify why sometimes trying to get access to other departments feels almost impenetrable, and why the threshold seems so high for us to be able to get assistance for some of our residents. So I'm hoping that a lot of the work they will do within the service will also break down those barriers and make us more joined up with other service areas, rather than having to rely on individual relationships with other managers and other departments to be able to cut through and get stuff done. So that's kind of where we are with that. I'm really excited about it. It's something we've been after for quite a number of years. And I think we can make some massive headway with this. So I'll keep you posted, and you'll see further updates on future show and shares.
Thanks, Jen. So that's where we are with our lightning show and share updates today. As we said, the shape of this is going to change a bit going forward. We'll be updating particularly around the 2 social workers, as well as the experiments around the shared plan. But again, we would love to hear if there's anything you want to cover at future show and shares. But we thought we'd use today to do a bit more of an activity, because we've got a bit more time left. And just take this as a bit of a moment to pause and think about those 6 tools that Claire took you through, particularly thinking about your team and your role, to think about what have you used, do you think these are useful and relevant to your role, and where might you need more training and support. So we're going to use our favourite tool, Menti, which I'm sure you all know by now. And we're going to do an anonymous survey. So just to emphasize, we're going to ask which team you're in so that we can understand which teams are using which things and where you might need more training. But we would love you to be as brutal and honest as possible. This is not going to be attributed to you individually at all. So if you are able to stay on the call for another 15 minutes or so, if you can grab your phone, or you can open a tab on your computer, and that is the web address there to go to, www.menti.com, and the code we've got is 5257763. But if not, thank you for joining. Nice to see so many of you again today, and we look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks' time.